Hey everyone, we'll make sure everyone can hear me okay. Okay, so this is going to be pretty brief. I'm really detailed, so I'm going to try my best to make this as like very, very concise as possible. Okay, so for starters, I just want to kind of do a really quick overview on the prior week's price action. So, oh, it shouldn't echo. Oh, you know why? It might be echoing because I might... Okay, well, this is interesting. How am I going to pull up the chat if I'm doing it through OBS? Is it echoing for everyone or just for one person, just so I can confirm? Because if not, then I'll close this window. So it's not echoing. Okay. I mean, I have a pretty expensive mic, so I don't think it would be the mic. Maybe try disconnecting and reconnecting on your end, because I do have the window open up on my other computers, just so that I can have the chat box open, of course, right? Because I'm not really sure how else would I have the chat box open if I'm doing this through OBS. I don't really know, so I just figured I'd mute the other window and it's fine. So, all right, perfect. Okay, so prior week, obviously we hit some major lows on the 13th of October. So most people were looking at probably around that 3,500 level. That seems to be just a major psych area for the ES, but technically I would say that 3498, that would be probably a bigger key area, because in the event that we came and were to retest that spot, I feel even if we were to breach 3,500, as long as we kind of protected a point or two above or below, sorry, then I think it would have still been fine. But regardless, all I'm really looking at here, so you can kind of see that nasty drawdown and then that bounce back up. So I've kept the chart very simplistic. I deleted a bunch of my levels on here just so that it's a little bit easier for everyone to follow along. For starters, I had 3587, 3596. Those have been two of my really strong zone areas. So you probably want to write those down, because if you've noticed here, I'm kind of like an open close trader. So a lot of what I do is I try to base it on, you know, whether we're still opening above, closing above. Anything that you should notice just based off this basic chart right now is all of these candles have closed above, right? In the event that we ever close below, that's when you should start getting concerned, right? Like that's when I would think that we would start breaching and possibly testing the 3,400 ranges. So based on my strategy and my technique, we were still in a safe zone. So I felt that there could be a lot of really, really good demand in this zone right here. And there was, right? So I had all probable scenarios for the Monday this week to be green. So we had started our future session, and we can kind of go back and look at this here. Let's maybe put this on. Maybe let's just do a 5 minutes so it's easier to follow along. We're going to go back to the Sunday night session. So let's, sorry, I over scrolled. Hold on. So we're going to go to the 16th. Right in here. Okay, so I live streamed this last week with my group. I just put fibs on here because I felt like it was easier to kind of follow along for some people. When I was trading this live, I wasn't using fibs. I was using just my core ranges, but I feel like this might be easier for others to follow along. So, and it did a really good job of actually pinning my price points. I will reiterate the exact points that I'm using, but it did do a really good job of doing it like that. So this is perfectly fine. You can kind of see the drawdown on Friday, right? We kind of consolidated. Something that I did notice on the session on Friday, I was kind of looking to see. So I don't know if you guys follow me too much on Twitter or whatnot, but I had 3596 as my max for the day, right? And I remember I was kind of going back and forth with one of my friends because people wanted lower, and I was like, I don't know. I think we're actually going to get pinned at 3596, right? And we did. So they pinned us right down there. And then Sunday's future session comes and we get this big bar. So I'll just pause for a second here because I do talk super fast, so I'll try to slow it down. I don't have the level physically on here, but 3592 was kind of another zone. We're just going to focus on 3587 and 3596, okay? So candle opens, it opens below 3596, right? I note that, I make a note of that, I write it down. But it held above 3587, right? So these are some of the notes. I'll actually read them back to you guys that I wrote down from that session. So gap opened 3591 below 3596, right? Highs on that stick hit, I'm talking about the 1 minute stick, even though this is a 5 minute chart. So on the 1 minute stick, we hit 3598.50, which was above 3596. So even though it opened below, it still broke above and it closed above. So these were all good signs. The closing stick was 3595.50, which left it in a bullish neutral zone. And the lows hit above 3587 at 3590. So for me, that was probably one of the bigger reasons, in addition to the daily candles all closing above those ranges and Friday holding above 3596. Like these were all major reasons why I felt like we could see a potential bounce this past week. And I had 3 different scenarios and probabilities that I posted to Twitter. Obviously there's more, but I didn't want to overwhelm people. But ideally, all of them started off with Monday being green. Okay, like that was the highest probability. Monday had to be green. There was no way that we would have had a red Monday based on a lot of the key details in the price action. So that was the first thing. And then the follow through was all dependent on Tuesday. Tuesday was the make or break day for both the upside and the downside. Okay, I had major flips on Wednesday. So essentially what I was looking for is the market had to do what it had to do before Wednesday. Okay, so everyone on the same page. I had kind of a time constraint for it. And that was the day I wanted us to retest 38.20, right? So we'll go over that in a second with what kind of played out and what happened. I was using a 6-day candle. So just for reference, if you guys want to go back and reference any of that. So, and I'm kind of just thinking that we can possibly keep ramping if we don't actually achieve what we wanted to achieve by the 18th, we're going to get stuck. And that's what made this week so much, I wouldn't say harder to trade. I did really well this week, but I definitely had to work a lot harder, right? We had those 2 directional moves, up, down, right? Like I don't even remember if it was Tuesday or I think it was Tuesday. Oh my God, I started the day off long and then short and long and then short and then long, right? It was just like back and forth. And it was, I have to always work so much harder because I analyze time a lot. So, I need to kind of ensure that we're getting the proper direction in which way we're going to go. So that made this week a little bit more interesting. I would have much rather performed for Tuesday. I would have preferred, for Tuesday to have just broken to the upside. It would have made it a lot easier. You would have seen the really nice big break, probably clear continuation until at least 3923 would have been my guess. But that didn't happen. So now we're looking at this. Let's go back to that 1 day so you can kind of see where this channel was. My prior resistance here was 382.350. We got stuck I think we got stuck right at 38.20, reverse down. This was kind of the bounce. So here's our Monday candle. Monday, we kind of keep breaking up. We stalled right at 3703. So write these numbers down, 3703.50 and 3706.50. I don't have them on the chart, but those are some of my major ranges. I just really liked how this fib aligned pretty close to what I'm looking at. So that's why I just applied this on there to make it easier to kind of follow along. So that 25% ratio, we're going to go with that 3703 spot. Got stuck right at 3702.50 and couldn't break. The following day, I was looking to see if we can get a clear open break over 3703 and 3706. That will be our attempt. So Tuesday, we were in the clear at possibly testing that 377325 range again. I had 37725 as one of my core ranges. I just put this on here so that you guys know what it was. So 377725, and then I had 3779. We never did get to 3779. 3779 would have been the break to 3823. Okay, we couldn't break that. We got stuck. And that's when we had reversals on Tuesday, right? So let's go back to Tuesday. Where is Tuesday? I'm so used to using 1 minute charts that okay, so Tuesday was the crazy day. So Tuesday, so we went long overnight on Monday, right? So I felt strong enough for the group to hold overnight, right? This one was, if you wanted to join. So I'll give you guys 2 reasons why I felt like this was going to break up, but the probability decreased. Okay. So 3735 has been a major level for a while now. It's been something I've been like rinsing and repeating continuously. So I don't have it, I don't think, posted on this chart right here, but 3735. So kind of in this zone right here, this is a key spot. Okay. So we had this nice big break on Tuesday. You can kind of see we broke up, right? Overnight, continued. And then overnight, I wanted us to protect 3735. We didn't, right? And I still had 372350. So these are my levels, 372350 and 3735 as kind of like my lower support range. It's still a bullish spot, but it makes it kind of neutral because this should have never breached 3735 overnight this night. Okay, so you see how back here it tried to hold off of it, right? Slightly breached, but the candle still closed above, so it was still in the clear. And then it just could not break. It kept making these lower highs right here. This right here, that alone was how I knew that there was a pretty good probability we're going to fail at this spot right here at 3777 and 3779. So we break right off the open. Okay, market opens up on Tuesday. I was using a 3-hour, I think, that day, so I knew that the 3-hour was going to flip pretty soon. Once that 3-hour flipped, I felt like there could be a reversal. So this was the major zone. I posted this on Twitter too. So that 3777 and 3779, strong spot, right? It hits it right off the open. Do you guys see that? Right at the 930 stick. That was a fail right at open. This is a short right off the open. Okay. I give it one more chance to test 3765. It fails, continues down, breaches 3703. And then if you notice here, it actually held above, 3696. Okay, so we're going to start drawing together so you can see this. So it holds at 3697. You kind of carry through. You get a little bit of a long, right? This day was kind of funny because I said we could definitely take it long off here, but this has to break that 3748 spot. So this was that lower high. You want to maybe write these down too. 3744, 3749 are 2 of my major zones. So that's kind of like the range where this started making a lower high. We had to break before 2. Okay, so you can see here it got stuck right at 2. And then I put a max at 232. If it doesn't break by 232, this thing's going to come lower, right? And it did. This is when Apple's news came out. So the timing of that was really interesting, right? We come back. And I was certain that we were going to make a higher low here. Okay, so here's the higher low that we print off right off that 370350. Do you guys see this here? Right in here, right? So I was pretty certain, and I kind of gave it around 12 minutes just to confirm. I wanted to see by 316, 320 if we're going to kind of bounce off this range here, and we did. So this was that continuation, and you can kind of see we got stuck right at 3773. So these are all things you definitely want to kind of note on your chart. 3773 was a spot that I had anyway, but you definitely want to put these lower highs that are printing on here. So that's your first lower high at 377425, right? So below that 377725 range. And then here comes Wednesday's session. So coming into Wednesday, that was the flip. Tuesday was the day that it had to do its thing and it didn't, right? So this is how I knew that we're going to likely see a reversal happen this day. If we retest and we fail, it's definitely going to come down, right? Like this was like certain that this was going to have that reversal. I was also using crude oil as another kind of inverse correlation. Crude was stuck on a inside bar for 8 days, and that candle was opening up in this range, so I was kind of just waiting for that candle to flip over too. So once that lower high was made, we went back tested. Notice that we held off 3706 and 3703 that day. Okay, so those were my max short ranges for that session, because technically this still has a potential to come back and bounce back up, right? Thursday, this was the oil flip day. This is the day that I felt would be very, very tight, right? And I figured it was going to be two directional. I preferably did not want to breach 3696 on Thursday, but I figured if we did, and I don't know if you guys saw that mock that I drew. I literally drew 3668 on this mock. I drew that like before we even got anywhere near that range, right? That was because if you break 3696, you're bound to test 3668. Okay, 3668 is kind of the range that we had to initially break to come back higher. And you can actually even see back in here on the Monday, the 10th, that's when he started making the lower highs off these major ranges here. So that's how I know my levels are precise, right? So I know that my 3635 is precise because we also ended up making a lower high off my spot. I know that 3651, 3653, my actual level is 3656 is precise because we made a lower high off 3656, right? I know that 3668 is precise because we made a lower high at 3667. You guys following along there? So this is how I can confirm that my supply and demand zones are accurate, right? Like it has to kind of hit lower highs, just kind of like we did right here at 377725. So we carry forward. That day on Thursday was very, very tight. I didn't really trade the index too much on Thursday. I just did one short, I think, like later in the session. And then I did the second short, I think, when we breached 3723 the second time and back tested 3696. And I knew at that point there's no way it's going to test 3668. As long as it can hold 3668, we're in the clear, right? Notice how it breached slightly. It hit 3666. So let's go back. We can look at a 2-minute chart. Guys, wait for me to kind of clear up and then we can look at questions. If you're going to start asking for like my own unique strategies that I worked really hard for, like that's not the stream to do this. And that would take me forever to try to explain. So here's Thursday's session. So you can see there's lower highs made yet again, right? 3747. That was kind of the reversal off that 3751. So I knew that this is going to be a major breaking zone. I kind of kept my eye on 3748. That was a huge spot, right? I knew if we came back and broke that would be the day that we have potential to go higher. So here's the back test. You can kind of see it here. This was on Thursday's session, right? The very first attempt, we hold off 3668. I covered here on the short side because I felt like that this is too strong. And I also based it on how much time is left in the day, right? There's not really enough time left in the day, so I didn't really think they were going to go too much lower. Hi, Hella. Who else is in here from the group? I didn't really see anyone. And I'll show you here what I was watching for Friday overnight price action. So what I wanted to see happen on Friday overnight, I would have honestly preferred us to not have breached 3668. Okay, so you want to take a note of that. I would have much rather preferred we held above because that puts us at a much higher probability of testing and breaking out of that 3800 zone. But as long as we protect 3635, we're in the clear, right? So 3635 gets protected. We're just going to go back overnight session, right? This is overnight on Friday. All right, so pay attention here. This is that back test overnight. Early morning on Friday, you can kind of see we held right over that 3635. I did have 3640 as kind of like a higher range. So kind of like if it were to hit a higher low, that should be around the range that it hits. Most people would have went back and used those June lows, which is totally fine, right? You could have used 3639, 3642. This was the protection, right? So we protected this range here. I knew 1,000% we're gonna go back and we're gonna retest these ranges. At the very least, we're gonna test 3735. Yeah, I mean, who cares? I don't know. Ignore that guy. It's literally Saturday night and I'm doing this for free. So like, shut up. Like I'm not someone to like to try making jokes like that with, right? Like I really don't care. I'm older. I don't care. Whatever you say, it's not going to bother me. So say whatever you want. I didn't know that you could put people in timeout. Have fun in timeout, buddy. All right, so moving forward. So we hold that spot. So probability is pretty good that we're gonna at the very least test 3735. That's kind of like the first major zone. If we break that, we're gonna look for that 3748 and 3741. I didn't think that we could hit 3800 just because of the fact that we breached 3668. So this is kind of how I measure risk reward and probability, right? So it's all a game of probability. What has the highest range of probability and what's my max range on the day? So this is kind of what I was telling the group. My max range on the day for starters is going to be around that 3748 to 3751 spot. In the event that we break that, we're probably going to retest 3777 and 3770, right? So we end up seeing this back test, clear break. This kind of channeled right off the hop. Friday, I think the issue with a lot of people is most were either, there were quite a few taking it short. I did notice that there was an imbalance with the premiums too. That was kind of another indication. Obviously, monthly expirations too. These are all things that can essentially make things move a little bit slower. And I think part of the issue is a lot of people, they'll either cover too soon or they'll try shorting moves like this, right? So you can kind of see it failed off 3728, 3726. It still got these really nice clear breaks, right? So overall, it was a bullish move, but it was a tighter range bull move, if that makes sense. We end up ramping. You can kind of see this late day. I obviously am a time trader, so there's a lot of specific time frames that I was using just to kind of make sure that I'm staying in the lead. This was my major zone. So I noticed at the very first attempt at 3747, sorry, it did take it out. It hit 3748, right? So this right here, if we back test, hold off 3742, pretty good chance we're going to break that 3751 spot, right? We did. We come back. And then later in the session, I kind of told the group, give this till 3. 3 will confirm that this is going to be a push into the close, right? So we took it long. I took it long at 301. Some people in the group took it long right here, but I kind of wanted to wait for a 3 p.m. confirmation on that stick. We get this really nice bounce. You can see all these different back tests. So these are clear back tests, right? Like when you're back testing right here, this is clear. Do you see that? Right? It's only a quarter above, but that's going to be a clear break to here. But that's what you want to start seeing. And what I was looking for is I did not want to breach 3735, right? If we were to hold over 3735, this gives us a pretty good probability, especially before 3, right? So this made the probability pretty high. We end up getting this push. At this point, I'm basing it off of time, right? So it's 3 o'clock, right? I'm not thinking we're going to go to 3850 at 3 o'clock. There's no way, right? We're probably going to try retesting those highs and that's it. We had some flips happening at like 340, 343, 344, 345. The following flips were not till 4. I didn't feel very comfortable holding through the last 15 minutes of the day, so I told everyone to start covering around 344, 343. Anywhere between 340 to 345 would be a good area to cover, especially if we hit there. And I'm expecting to make a third lower high, okay? So you're trying to go back and you're going to base this off of your high ranges, right? So 3773 is your major spot, right? You see how it kind of got stuck right at 3773. This is like a big push into the late session. We're just stuck there right now overnight. So based on where we got stuck overnight, it's technically bullish neutral, right? So we'll see how we open up tomorrow, but I wasn't really expecting huge breaks. And when you're looking back and basing it off this, let's say we use a 5-minute chart here, right? You just kind of want to see the areas in that zone. That's where you would expect to make these lower highs off of, right? So you see that lower high right here. You see this high right here, right? These are going to be the ranges that you're more bound to make those lower highs off of, right? So we end up hitting, what did we hit? This was right at 340. This was the candle that we began to sell. We hit 3769.50. That was very clear, right? One thing, most people obviously use a 1 hour chart. I'll give you guys a big tip here, right? You see this really nice continuation, right? This is a really clear continuation. Look at that break over 3656, right? This is just a clear break. I don't really like, so if you're trying to time duration on a trade, let's say, right? And let's say you're using this hourly bar. I don't really like this bar right here breaching the lows on that prior bar, okay? That's how I know that this time frame is not valid, right? This time frame in specific doesn't tell me how long this move is going to take. So just by basing it off of this, I knew right off the hop, this is going to take a lot longer. It's going to be bullish, but it's going to be a slow drag. And I also knew based off the pre-market and breaching 3668 that it's going to keep dragging, right? So because I'm not expecting bigger range. If we were to hold over 3668, I would have expected us to test 3820. Because we didn't, I'm only expecting us to test 3777. Does that make sense? That's kind of how I'm basing my ranges. Take it by 20, 30 points, right? But based on the hourly, now I'm trying to time, well, how long is it going to take to get there? Is it going to do it in the first 2 hours and then reverse? Or is it going to take all day? It took all day, right? So this was your first major clue, right? You don't ever want to see that breach. So just by basing it off that, I know that this is definitely going to be on a much wider frame, right? Like, so relevant to what you want to use. I definitely think that there was a ton of potential great frames that you could have used in here on Friday. Whether it's a 3 hour, right, 4 hour, it doesn't really matter. It's just as soon as you start seeing that kind of range break in there, right? Even if you used a 90 minute, right? These are some popular frames. I like the 75 minute. This is clean, right? This one here kind of shows you that, you see how this 75 in comparison shows you that the lows were taken out. They had to be taken out between, okay, 10:15 and before 11:30. Okay, pay attention to this. This is short, but I'm trying to give you guys some pretty big tips. Okay, so when I'm seeing the back test at 10:30, it better freaking hold, right? That's how I know that this is going to continue. So let's look at 11:30 when this thing comes to back test. It holds. Do you see where it holds? 3696. So it's not just about time. That time has to align with my price. They have to match. Both of those ranges have to match, right? So that's a 3696 protection on time. Okay? That means I'm long. I'm staying long. I think a lot of people got psyched out in this area in here on Friday. And then maybe might have missed the continuation on the play, right? Like I think the timing from 10:06 till around here is kind of what got people to sell a little too early. Do you know what I mean? So like this is how you would have based that. Sorry, I'm getting... So just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I was looking for. And yeah, that's how I started. That's how I stayed long on Friday. I knew that we were going to probably make a lower high there and then revert and then maybe just kind of hold into the close. We'll see what happens on Sunday's session. I did like that we kind of came right up to my spots. Do you guys see this here in the after hours? But I didn't like that we never took out that lower high. So that lower high being 377425. So we'll see if this ends up coming back in ranging. So far right now, though, everything is kind of set in here. So if we're going to get a nice break on Sunday's session, I would prefer us to open above 3777 and 3779. Okay, so I would call that a clear break. That would put us in a much better position to break this 3800 wall. So for instance, if this had never happened on Tuesday and we actually broke 3779, we would have had that scenario that I sent you guys. It would have played out. We would have just seen continuous green sticks until maybe about here. There's definitely a lot of major ranges in here. So maybe we would have gotten stuck right around here or in here, but it would have been at least 3 consecutive sessions of green sticks would have been my guess. So that's that on the mock for, we do have more core events this week too. So more so later in the week, but if we're basing this off that 6 day, what you're trying to do right here is you just, essentially, this is the market's time to shine. You see how this candle opens up on the 17th? You can give that till Monday, basically, to try canceling out as much of this range as possible. Depending on how you want to do this, I mean, if you want to just use the retracements from there, that also works, right? Like, do you see this? So if you're using let's say you use a 6-day and you want to cancel this out from the 17th through Tuesday, right? So that means you have, how many days do you have? And it makes total sense because macros would happen before that. Do you know what I'm saying? So, or after. So this time flip from the 17th to the 25th are going to all be before your numbers start coming out, right? So it's kind of like there isn't going to be something major to kind of weigh it down. It has a better probability because the odds are in the market's favor in that sense, right? So if you wanted to use a retracement on that, it would have netted you the same range, that 3763, 3766. Any of those spots in here are going to be essentially some major zones, right? So same sort of thing. If I use the 6 days, so I'd write this down too. Even though on the daily and intraday we made that lower high, we still closed above that 6 days 61.8 retracement that I was using, right? By what, like a quarter? What did we close at? 3764, and that range was 376350. So I'm going with the closing range on Friday was a bullish neutral stance heading into tomorrow. And also due to the fact that I still technically have Sunday, Monday. Not as much time, but I mean, the probability is still in the market's favor on the upside versus downside, if that makes sense. And that's it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. I think it was just probably important to see how you can stay in a trade a little bit longer, right? Maybe some ranges on avoiding chop periods, right? What to kind of look for when you're watching these bigger time frames, whether it's an hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, doesn't matter, right? Like you just want to make sure that you're watching these bigger ranges so that you ensure that you're capturing the whole trade, right? You have to also make sure that your ranges are precise, right? You want to make sure that you have the right levels in there. You want to make sure you're tracking the intraday ranges too, right? It's like those lower highs, the higher lows, they have to align with your levels. If they don't align with your levels don't mean nothing, right? Like your levels have to reflect the real-time price action. Otherwise they're no good. So, and that's kind of what you have to keep back testing, right? Keep back testing it until you get those proper ranges. And you start seeing them hit in real time. That's the core spot. But hopefully this kind of does a good job of demonstrating my open close strategy, right? So all of these candles, if you look at them here, right, they're all closed over that 3587, right? Open above, closed above, right? Opened above, closed above, opened above, closed above. That final candle there was open at 3591. That was the Sunday session. So I could probably take maybe like a question or two, and then I'm going to close this. I think this auto records on YouTube, so I think it'll just be posted on there as soon as the stream's over to rewatch if someone wants to go back and watch it. I also think that this is like 10 seconds delayed on here too, because when I was back testing it, I was like, it kind of like echoed after like 10 seconds. Yeah, no problem. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. I mean, I think it's kind of important to just understand, like, you know, this is kind of basic really, but it's just so that you can understand like a smaller, you know, I like ideologies that I have in terms of using, you know, time to my advantage. Yeah, I mean, like the 1 hour thing, it's just like me personally, like the problem with the 1 hour, right? Like, so let's say someone used this 1 hour, right? At, let's say 11 o'clock and until 12. Like the problem with that is, look at the chop that happened between then, right? So like you're basing it back in here, right? So let's say you stay long at 11, and then this starts to happen, and then this happens, right? So it's, I just prefer the lows to be taken out within that second bar versus that third, if that makes sense. So I just don't really, I don't like seeing this. And think about it this way, because the lows were taken out in that bar right here, I know that this is going to take way longer than an hour. Does that make sense? Like the duration on this trade is not on an hourly time frame. Do you know what that means? The move is going to be, it's still bullish, but it's going to move a lot slower. Does that make sense? Like, so you're still long, but it's not going to be like an explosive long. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get like big ranges on single sticks. It's going to take longer to get there, and it did. It took literally the whole day, right? Whereas compare this, for instance, to, you know, the day that we got that really big break, right? Like, so let's say, let's go back to, like, this is a perfect example, right? Like, look at all that range here. Like, it's kind of, you're just trying to make sure that you understand time in the sense that if that's the price action you saw in the hourly, you're likely going to take a lot longer to hit your major ranges. And on, you know, a day like Friday with monthly expirations too, right? Like, that's kind of like, there's a lot of premium chop, right? So these are all things that obviously factor in with OPEX and whatnot. So just try considering things like that, right? Like, you have to kind of make sure that, like, I can usually gauge momentum. So that's kind of like, that right there, that tip is how you can try to gauge momentum. Does that make sense? Right? So I knew that the momentum was not very high, right? Like, I knew that it was bullish, but momentum was kind of slow, meaning it would take a little bit longer for us to get there. So I took a bunch of breaks on Friday just because I felt pretty comfortable just staying long, but then I knew it would kind of take a lot longer to get there. And then waited till 3 to confirm whether or not it was even going to try attempting those highs and make a lower high, right? So I knew that the lower high probability was also really high considering how long it took, right? And the fact, like I said, that we failed 3668. Yeah, I mean, I do look at volume too, right? Like, volume's something I look at. I don't base it off of everything, but you definitely want to see majority of the volume occur. You'll always see it occur in like that first hour, the last hour. Obviously, those are like major spots, but like, let's say you have your key levels, right? So I was waiting for this right here. So remember how I said I wanted to go long? I wanted to make sure this holds before 3. This would have been some good confirmation for me too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot of good liquidity coming in. I also noticed, like, I am watching the chain too. I'm watching the charts on the chain. I'm watching the Greeks on the chain. I was seeing the bid and ask getting bid up, right? So like, there's a lot of other things that obviously I can't talk about in like half an hour, but there's a lot of other factors that kind of base into that too. Based on those other things, Amber, so like, based on the fact that we never did breach my core ranges, right? And we also protected overnight. I base a lot of intraday based off what happened overnight and what happened at the open. It's not all based off of what's happening right then and there. It's also based off of the notes that I took in pre-market and the night before. Regardless, the day was long. Like, it doesn't matter, like, as long as the range protected, right? So like, if you're looking at the 11 o'clock, like in specific, right? Like, we protected 3668. Does that make sense? That's another reason why, right? So overnight, we breached 3668, but we protected 3635, 3640, right? Intraday, what level do you not want to breach? Think about it, right? If 3668 was my core level, right? What level do you not want to breach intraday? So overnight we breached it, that's fine because we protected 3635. Intraday, I don't want to breach 3668. That would have been the only thing that would have caused me to think that this could reverse back. Does that make sense? Because 3668 breach means it's going right back to 3635, right? It fails 3635, shit, this thing's going to 3596. Right? Like that's kind of, I just base everything based on ranges. Everything's based on risk reward. So that's kind of how I base all of that off of. So I'm trying to I don't have anyone else in here helping me. So if there's something I missed, but I think that's it. Sorry if there's other questions that I couldn't really get to, but I do have plans. So Try to rewatch this. Maybe I can answer it. Take some of your questions to Twitter. I can try answering them on there maybe later tonight or tomorrow, but thank you. I like them too. I didn't want to be too girly with the pink. I actually don't really care for pink, but I'm like, you know, pink is better than red for the colors. But I feel like this looks better than what did I have before? I had the gray, which I mean is nice. I like the gray, but so Jack, for me, honestly, like I will answer that question. It changes daily for me, right? Everything is based off of what I'm seeing. It's based off of macro events. It's based off of ranges. It's based off of consolidation, right? So time is relevant to price, if that makes sense. So you're not going to use the same time frame every single day. Sure, there's going to be good time frames that you can repeat, right? Like an hourly, 2 hour. It's good to check those things. It's good to check what majority of traders are looking at. It's good to look for the 1030 flip. It's good to look for the London open and close. Like these are all things that obviously you want to watch for, but, and you know, like when you have the timing of macro events coming out, those are all things that you have to kind of, you have to adapt your day based on those things, right? But you also want to make sure that you understand it's a changing dynamic on a day-to-day basis, right? So that's, hopefully that's helpful. All right, well, thanks guys for tuning in. Sorry for the one guy, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Now that I figured out how to use YouTube Live, I'll try doing these maybe like once every other week or something like that. You could probably send some topics that you guys want to cover. I just wanted to cover this because I felt it was important to kind of see where the market's sitting currently right now. So just keep your mind focused on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or sorry, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday is a big flip, so we'll see how much we can get. I will put some future updates out tomorrow, so I definitely will look to see where we open. I prefer us to open above 3777.25, preferably 3779, but we'll see. All right, thank you. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.